Welcome back, everyone. Today's video will be discussing the 30s, the 2030s, that is, because as you know, uranium projects move very slowly, so part of the market really already should be looking out to the 30s. So we've already established that uranium development is incredibly prolonged. But what does that mean for the 2030s? Because that is basically soon in uranium speak. If you discover a deposit today, if you're optimistic, it'll maybe be mid 2030s that it goes into production. Depends where in the world. Well, have you seen, and I mentioned this before, but the Kazakh production, and I don't think it'll fall this much, but it's supposed to, or projected to, decline by 50 million pounds per year from the beginning of the 2030s to the end of the 2030s. And fighting this decline will need money. And even with money, it's not obvious that they'll be able to completely combat it. It's highly likely that there will be less Kazakh production in the late 30s than there was supposed to be in 2023. But that's not all, because if you look at Cameco, well, Cigar Lake, even if you're optimistic that they spend the money and extend it, well, it's done in 2033. And then once you get there, you look out, and depending on when MacArthur River restarts, it's done in the 2040s. But the point is, Cigar Lake, that's 18 million pounds a year. And then if you consider, well, if you take all of Cameco's other projects and they all go into production, well, that basically just replaces Cigar Lake. Then what? What else? Well, there's Samer or Arlit, depending, goes by different names depending on who is referring to it. Well, that should be done in the 30s. Langer Heinrich. Some people may not realize this, but it really only has 8 years left. 8 good years, at least, and then declines. Where does that take us? Well, it starts 2023. Well, early 30s. Rossing. That's if it makes it past the 20s, if they spend a whole lot of money to extend it. So that's all declining in the early 2030s. And even if you look at some of the production, which could come online in the 2020s, new production, let's call it, there's some deposits out there which people are very optimistic about, and some of them could come online in the 20s. Many of them will last like 10 years. If it comes on in the 20s, I'm not the greatest at math here, but 20s plus 10 years. Then what? So I don't know if you were keeping track all through my spewing numbers and what mine and what mine and adding up how much that accounts for, but we're talking 90 million pounds per year of production that will need replacing in the 2030s. And I will point this out again because it really matters. How long are lead times in the uranium space? For reference, even if Cigar Lake gets those last 5 years, that's 13 years from now, approximately. Meaning, if we don't know about what deposit is going to replace it today, it won't replace it in time. And of that 90 million pounds that will need replacing in the 2030s, almost 80 million pounds of that will be needed to keep today's production flat. And what I mean by that is just that 10 of that million pounds is assuming that we ramp up, assuming that Kazakhstan can ramp up some production. Now, this is just the 30s. This is excluding what could come offline in the 20s or will come offline in the 20s. Now, as bullish as that may sound, imagine if demand were growing. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that there's a strong narrative which could take hold in when this gets closer and people start looking out to this. And the other point is it provides potential prospective producers with a backdrop where they can look and be patient and maybe have some leverage over what price they're able to get in terms of, well, we could produce for break even now, or we could wait because demand might be there in the future. And there are a lot of current production that either needs to be replaced or Cameco needs to need more projects. And going forward, this could provide a different type of narrative in the uranium space. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you've made it to this point, I applaud you. If you enjoyed, you might also enjoy the other episodes in this series, and they will be all out eventually, and probably some have been released already. As always, nothing I say is investment advice. This is all just what I'm seeing, how I'm thinking about the sector, and what I view as relevant. So with that, I will leave you there and have a great day.